Okay, hi everybody, hello and welcome to this, for joining us today for this webinar in the RMIT Postgraduate Month series. My name is Julie Porteous. I'm a senior lecturer here in computer science at RMIT, and I'm the program manager for the Master of Artificial Intelligence. Quite an extensive background of research and teaching in AI, so I'm very excited about the program, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about AI and the program itself. Next slide, please. But first things first, before we get started, I'd like to say Woman Jaka, which means welcome in the local Indigenous language, at RMIT, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and we respectfully recognise elders past, present and emerging. Next slide, please. And a bit more before I get started, just to let you know a bit of housekeeping about the session today. The first thing is that the webinar session is being recorded, and I believe that a link to the recording will be sent to you via email shortly after the session ends. I'll talk for a while, but at the end there'll be an open question and answer session. I'll leave time at the end for about 15 minutes Q&A at the end of the webinar. Obviously, if you have questions along the way, then please feel to post them in the chat window alongside as the questions arise, and then I'll get to all the questions at the discussion and Q&A at the end. And also the last bit of housekeeping to note there is that at the end of the session we've got a brief survey after the event, so we'd really like to get your feedback, so we'd appreciate it if you could spare some time to complete the survey after the event so we can get your feedback. Thank you for that. So onto the business of the webinar. So the Master of AI at RMIT, as you are all no doubt aware, AI is becoming it's all around us, and it's becoming increasingly relevant across all industries. And not surprisingly, the demand for skilled workers with those specialist AI skills is growing rapidly, growing apace. And that is the whole remit, if you like, for the Master of AI, is that to equip the next generation of AI professionals, equip you and to develop the high-level computing knowledge and advanced programming skills and AI skills that are needed to shape what's next in AI. The course itself, and I'll dive deep into elements of it as we go through, is very hands-on. You're learning the theory, but at all points you're taking that and you're putting that into practice through project-based learning and advanced courses in covering the broad range of modern AI, machine learning, deep learning, autonomous robots, intelligent decision making, and at all times learning how to design and implement complex AI systems. Next slide, please. Thank you. So up front, some quick facts about the course itself. The full-time duration of the course is 2 years. A full-time duration of 2 years. There is the possibility for those with advanced standing to apply for excuse me, credit, which would reduce the overall duration of the programme to 1.5 years, if that's applicable for those with advanced standing. The requirements, again, as it says there, the important thing about this programme is that it's what we would call non-cognate. It's not requiring that you have a bachelor's degree in computing or computer science. It's broader brush than that, so it's a bachelor degree in computing, science, engineering or health with a minimum GPA is stated. The expectation we have about that broad science or computing or health background is that there's some elements of mathematics and statistics in those types of bachelors, and some element of programming or that kind of analytical reasoning that's involved in the bachelors. The campus itself, it's in Melbourne City, and I can say I'm relatively new to Melbourne. I've been here for 2 years. Melbourne is a fantastic place to work and live and study. You know, for myself personally, on a personal note, it was a major pulling point for me for my move from the UK to Australia, and Melbourne in particular. There are intakes to the course at the start of the academic year in February, and also at the mid-year intake in July. And there's some figures there on the slide for the average contact hours and study load, taken total on a weekly basis for full-time students. So there's a commitment of about 48 hours, both of contact face-to-face with academic staff and also self-directed study related to the course content. Yeah, next slide, please. So the important question, why study artificial intelligence? I think the reason for the quote on the slide is that I think that sums it up very well. AI is the new electricity. Just as 100 years ago, electricity transformed industry after industry, AI will now do the same. So that's a quote from Andrew Ng, who's a co-founder of Google Brain, which is a research centre as part of Google AI. And you know, we all know that we're living in a time of very rapid technological change, and a lot of that is spurred on by recent advances in AI. And increasingly, we'll be seeing AI systems working alongside us for shared control and shared decision making in partnership over controller systems, and increasingly handing over control to computer and AI systems. And AI is also changing the way in which we interact with computers. You'll all have seen this in the move from, it used to be back in the day, to interact with computers, you had to do it in a particular way through a mouse or a keyboard. Now that's much more seamless forms of interaction, which are voice enabled, gaze, touch. It's much more seamless, and it's really changing that, and it's set to have huge impact. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, thank you. So again, why study AI? I think, you know, based on that and these times of rapid technological change, that it's transforming industries, and there's the forecast of the growth and the generation of economic growth on the basis of that is huge. The one on the slide here, 13 trillion across the world by 2030, from a McKinsey report, but you can look at many other reports which get very similar figures. And of course, hand in hand with that goes the need for AI skilled workers to implement that change in industry. And on the slide here, there's some examples across the board. So agriculture, AI crop control, field robots, tracking the, predicting the movement of forest fires, healthcare, we've seen robot surgery, diagnosis, early detection of types of cancers, transport, autonomous vehicles, driverless cars, robot deliveries, in media, really personalized content responsive to gaze, different types of interaction, different physiological responses, sports, personalized streaming, finance, it goes on and on. It extends to retail, law. I come back to the point, it's hard to imagine any industry that isn't already being transformed or set to be transformed by the application of AI within it. Next slide, please. So we know, why study AI? Those key AI skills are going to be very, very much in demand, and increasingly in demand as AI solutions are fielded in and deployed in industry. Why study AI at RMIT? There's many reasons that I could use to support that. We're known in CS and across RMIT for innovative teaching and learning practices. The program that we've developed offers you it's both flexible and practical. So you have scope to tailor your degree, tailor the program by selection of specialised elective courses depending on your interests and in particular. There's also options to take different streams, one of which is project-based, another of which is research-based, a research stream, which allows you to pursue very specialised knowledge in a particular field and explore that in more of a research setting and context. It's also very practical application, as I've said, in the context of projects, project-based, right the way through actually, and a lot extra, if you like, extension beyond the program itself. So there's the opportunities for hackathons, entrepreneurship competitions, organised through, we have a relationship with RMIT Activator, who work alongside a lot of industry connections and industry startups in Melbourne and indeed across Australia and the wider region. And also RMIT as an institution itself, it's globally recognised. It's ranked as 8th in Australia for graduate employability and 55th globally for graduate employment rates. That's from 2020 figures, which is you know, a great statistic there. And RMIT is ranked #4 in Australia and 60th globally for our partnerships with employers, and that's certainly a thing that I've been really impressed by with my move here, is the industry engagement, relationships with employers, and approach to employability in general, actually. And a further reason there is the focus on research, the research strengths within computer science. So in the latest round of the Australian research assessment exercise by the Australian Research Council, RMIT was rated above world standard for the research in the field of AI and AI and image processing. Next slide, please. A further point to make on that is the research strengths in artificial intelligence at RMIT, or in the computer science and specialisms. And what I've got on the slide here are the areas of interest, loose groupings of academic researchers, I suppose, in different areas and research strengths within CS. So I go through say a bit of each of those. One of those is this general area of robotics and human collaboration. And an interesting aspect of that is what these researchers are interested in is the development of software technologies, computer technologies that allow for and facilitate intelligent collaboration between humans and robots or computer systems. Consider examples of applications and domains which are too hazardous or too tedious, let's say, for human decision making or to complete themselves. But what's needed is the robot with a human in the loop, the need for human collaboration, joint decision making. So these systems are improving our lives, and rather than taking over from us or replacing us completely. That's that general area. Another area oh, sorry, could you maybe I'm talking too much about this slide. So optimization and planning, which is a lot of core computer science, really looking for finding the optimals, the fastest, the most efficient solutions to complex problems, complex reasoning, and planning, which is a process of deliberation or reasoning about complex sets of goals and the sets of actions that are needed to deliver on those. And there's a whole host of different approaches to those sorts of problems. Computer vision, developing computer systems, software systems that can see and that can make interpretations on what is seen. And that goes across the board for satellite footage, locating targets, intelligent crop control for recognition of weeds. Yeah, the list goes on and on. Augmented reality in games, there's application of artificial intelligence techniques to enhance user experience using, for example, machine learning techniques to improve or personalize game performance and responses to user play styles. Augmented reality, which expands the domain into areas of training, advanced materials development, which is a real mix of the application of artificial intelligence in this rich world of games and augmented and virtual realities. Autonomous decision making, where autonomous vehicles is a complex set of systems bringing together to allow systems to make decisions and to behave autonomously, taking control away from humans. And finally, on the slide, machine learning, which people have heard a lot about. There's a broad range of machine learning techniques, reinforcement learning, deep learning, neural networks, and that also overlaps or interacts a bit with the area of data science and data analytics and learning from large data sets. So there's a very rich areas of expertise across the broad range of artificial intelligence in the department. Next slide, please. And something about the teaching and learning on the course, and I think I said previously, RMIT are well known for innovative approaches to teaching and learning, and that extends in a number of different ways. One of the things that is key to the Master of AI program is industry partnerships, which are real partnerships with these companies involved. So, for example, in the robot course, that's a partnership with Amazon. We're using their RoboMaker platform and indeed their robot operating system on board the platform, on board the robots that are being used in the workshops. Microsoft Garage I've got down there, and that's a course, a mixed reality course, which is co-delivered with people from Microsoft Garage, one of their research centres. There's an exciting industry-based capstone AI postgraduate project, which is delivered in collaboration with RMIT Activator. So again, that's very much industry focused, with relationships with local industry, startups, and so on. The program delivery itself, well, it's both things. There's a broad coverage of the field of AI, and there's also a deeper dive into specialist advanced topics. So that there's the knowledge of the theoretical underpinnings, but that's been applied in the context of real problems and problem solving. As it says there, the intake to the program is a broad range of students with a bachelor's in across the sciences, and with an expectation or with the understanding that students with experience that includes some programming and mathematics will be well equipped for the sorts of analytical problem solving skills that are required. And lastly, the thing to note on there is an emphasis on authentic teaching and assessment, so that the learning is applied in the context of project, it's hands-on, we're using state-of-the-art tools and systems, like, for example, Amazon Web Services for learning and machine learning platforms and so on and so forth, so that it's very applied and it's very industry focused and industry ready. Yeah, next slide, please. Right, yes, I probably touched on this before on the last slide. So to say something about this, for those students who are selecting to opt with the project stream, then the actual AI postgraduate innovation project is a 12-week capstone project typically in the final semester, and 24 credits for that. And it's delivered in partnership with RMIT Activator, a growth engine for new ventures, business innovation and talent development, leveraging that connection between industry and the university itself. As part of that, students have access to a digital learning platform, online coaching and industry check-ins, with face-to-face in a blended delivery mode. And there's the opportunity for industry experience, working alongside the industry client on a real challenge and solution. That's the key to it. It's a real industry challenge. And the outcomes of that are many, as it says on the slide. There's an industry focus, those advanced skills that are so important in terms of employability. So advanced skills, pitching, market opportunity analysis, team building, leadership. and aspects to do with managing the client relationship, you know, and professional skills. Also, clearly, application of, you know, the AI skills in the context of this particular project. And yeah, the point on the bottom there is important as well. Expanded professional network, opening access to this network of industry partners, activators, entrepreneurial community. Next slide, please. Thank you. So on this slide here, there's an outline of the course structure and the 2-year program, and we can see, starting with year 1 there in the first 4 blocks across the top of we could think of those as enabling courses, the programming fundamentals, practical data science, and some core discrete mathematics, which for most science students would have been unlikely to have encountered. And right from the get-go, there's a course which we have the AI professional. This is really important in the context of deploying AI solutions and implementing AI solutions in industry settings. Is an understanding of the ethical issues and the implications and the requirements that entails to build an AI professional. Moving on through that, after those enabling courses, if you like, there's a core artificial intelligence, core algorithms and analysis, which are essential skills for moving on to the advanced courses beyond. But interspersed with those is the choice of electives, to where you can be driven by your particular interest. Moving on into the second year, excuse me, there's a host of advanced courses, intelligent decision making related to deliberation, problem solving, goal directed thinking, a key human problem solving skill actually, and programming autonomous robots. So a lot of and that's not just hands-on with the robots, but it's issues to do with vision and related to working with robots in that context. Deep learning, computational machine learning, and so on. And then, as shown on the slide there, these 2 different streams, one of which I would appeal to most students on the programme, I would suggest, is this project stream with the AI postgraduate project with the RMIT activator, as I've said, and then choice of options alongside that. For those students who are interested in research and subjects to certain GPA satisfaction at that point, gives them an opportunity to deep dive into a particular area that they're interested in, following a research methods course, and then working on a minor thesis, a project, a research project, hand in hand with a supervisor, and submitting a minor thesis. And that opens pathways into further research, should that be something that's of interest. Yeah, next slide, please. Excuse me. So we've touched on the broader area of AI, why there is increasingly a demand for AI skilled professionals, some unique selling points of the program here at RMIT. How is that going to advance your career and your employability at the end of it? The thing to note about that is there is a wide range of AI job titles. They're diverse and they include a lot of things. Some of those that you'll see here: AI engineer, machine learning engineer, business intelligence developer, software engineer. And that's a key point to remember from all of this, that not taking a master's in AI does not restrict you to job titles that just have AI in them. There are graduate opportunities as an IT professional across any industry. And the reason why I say that, the basis is for that, is because what you emerge from the masters with is this breadth of high-level computing knowledge, excellent programming skills, and the in-depth knowledge of designing and implementing complex AI solutions. But those are transferable skills that go across the board for the designing of complex computer solutions, I would argue. So that's it in a nutshell, that it doesn't limit you to just AI jobs. In fact, it gives you a much broader grounding. And it's a master's in AI is a challenging program, so that's appreciated by industry. There's also research opportunities, as I said, for those who are interested taking the research stream. There's an opportunity to move into a higher degree by research, a research scientist in industry, for example. And on the other hand, there's entrepreneurial opportunities for those of you who have ideas for AI startups, AI products for development, and there's opportunities to pursue that moving forward through RMIT Activator. Yeah, next slide, please. And one thing that to note is the idea of flexible online learning in the current environment that we find ourselves on. And find ourselves in. There's the possibility to study online now and on campus later. And the point about this is we have an engaged digital community where we can connect and learn together. And what's happened through what's been forced on us actually through the situation we found ourselves in for the last 6 months, last year, is to move to a process of well, completely online delivery, but a blended learning where some material is delivered in an asynchronous mode, pre-recorded pre-recorded lecture materials, for example. And what the benefit of that is, it leaves students free to follow along with that material over their own time, in their own time frame, and more control over the time of when you spend studying. So the face-to-face timetabled classes are much more interactive, time to work on specific problem solving and discussions and analysis with the academic members of staff. So that blended pattern is a very powerful way to work, actually, and it gives you the flexibility of a mix of online and face-to-face learning, which is popular with students. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So that's all I have to say prepared on the slides that I have. So, thanks everybody much for listening. What I'll do is I'll move to the Q&A now, and I can see that I've got some questions in the chat. So I'll just go through those in the remaining time that we have here. One of this is so the first one that I can see here on the chat. Sorry, there's no one on it. Does this program include project-based learning for hands-on experience? Yes, yes, very much. It's one of the things that is built into it in a way that we want it to be authentic, and we want the learning to be applied in the context of projects and developments of AI systems. So broadly across the program, it's applied in application projects. Wherever possible, we're using real live data sets. So currently, some of the systems have been related to data sets and problems related to COVID, for example. There's challenges related to AI for good, and so the projects and assessment, projects for assessments are in the context of those. There's the research stream for those who are interested in that deep dive, where it's very hands-on, led by your own interests and in discussion with academic members of staff and their interests. And there's also, I think I alluded to this on one of the slides as well, there's the beyond what's involved in the program itself, there's the opportunity externally for enrichment activities as well, which are project-based. So there'll be hackathons, there'll be internships. These are all advertised on an ad hoc basis as they come in. There's sometimes small pieces of work even on research projects, which, when there's an open expressions of invitation for expressions of interest for people who are interested in working on projects such as that. So yes, very project based and very hands-on. If I look at the next question down on there, I'm interested, what's the best bachelor's degree to enroll in to best prepare me for the Master of AI? I would always suggest to people, you know, follow your interest, follow what you're interested in. But the best bachelor degree I would suggest is a computer science or a science bachelor's that has a substantial element of programming and maths and or statistics, those problem solving and analytical skills. But I think if you've got some core programming and solid grounding in maths and statistics, then you're very well placed to thrive on the Master of AI and enjoy it, and it would be aligned with your interests as well. So this is a question about, there are two pathways, being the honours year and the master minor thesis. Yeah, in fact, it's not a split, and so the question is, sorry, the question is that interested in pursuing the research stream part of the Master of AI, but concerned about the GPA requirement. The GPA requirement is to follow the research stream is from the Master of AI itself, and that is specified as a GPA of 3. The point of decision of that is after the first year of the programme of the Master of AI. If the GPA is suitable, if it's high enough, and you're interested in the research stream at that point, then absolutely you can progress onto the research stream. If it isn't, then you continue with the Master of AI and continue with the Master of AI. And take the AI innovation project, the AI postgraduate project. I think that answers your question. If it doesn't, then I will, or certainly the organisers of the webinar can make my email address available, and you can email me, and I can arrange a meeting to discuss that offline. I hope I've answered that correctly, but if I understood your question. The next question I can see is, I've just finished a Bachelor of Psychology. Would doing this Masters be too difficult? The admissions requirements state a bachelor's in science across that board, but engineering, health. Psychology, it's an interesting one. I think the question would be, and I would be happy to have a discussion with somebody about this, is you know, the experience in programming, the experience in maths and statistics, and psychology has a pretty high statistics element, I think. It's more the expectations on some of the courses about the prior study and the content. So again, it depends. I'd be happy offline to have a discussion. So if you can get my email details, and if they can make that available when they send out the link to this chat, then I'd be happy to arrange a time to meet to discuss that. Hope that suffices for now. The question 5 here that I've got, can you please tell me more about the robots? Yeah, absolutely. The robots is definitely one of those courses that is very hands-on. The application, there's theory involved. And its application you've got to roll your sleeves up and program the robots in the lab, and it's delivered in partnership with Amazon. So we're using Amazon RoboMaker, which is their robot platform, and the ROS operating system, and they're small. The robots that you'll be programming are small logistics and transportation robots, which are great for getting started. Programming wise, there's you can program them. I think they're language agnostic, but certainly you've got your free reign to choose to use Python, which is one of the programming languages that you're introduced to earlier on in the course, or C++. So there's a bit of free reign over that. And also, for those who are interested in robots as well, I don't know if I mentioned that, there was a photo of them, a couple of photos in the slides. There's also the opportunity to become involved with our robot soccer team, the RMIT Redbacks. And so robot soccer is a thing, and there is a World Cup of Robo-Soccer, and the team from RMIT had qualified for the World Finals, which were meant to be held in France in July this year. But anyway, they have qualified for the next the next Robot Soccer World Cup, whenever that might happen. And there is opportunities, in fact, always opportunities for students to become involved if they want to get involved in programming those robots and being part of the part of the team. That is a very real possibility. Exciting opportunity, actually. How does the program differ from the Master of Information Technology? It's an interesting question. That there are different entry requirements. So the Master of Information Technology is I think I'm correct in saying, is a bachelor's in any subject, subject with the caveat of a GPA of, I think, 2, a minimum GPA of 2 out of 4. So it's much broader. There's no requirements on that background in science for the Master of Information Technology. However, and if you've looked at the program guides, you might think it is the case that you can follow the Master of Information Technology. It's less structured than the Master of AI. So, and what I mean by that is it gives you more choice of electives. So you could choose to take Master of Information Technology with an AI stream, selecting a lot of the core AI courses as your electives, and actually at the end of that, it would look rather similar to the courses that you studied. Would you have a good grounding in AI? So that is possible. So I guess there's more flexibility and freedom in the Master of AI. For the AI, there's the core AI courses are an important part of it. The Master of IT gives you more flexibility to choose AI electives, AI core courses to suit yourselves and your own interests. Okay, so question 7, what is the most surprising application of AI? That's a good question. There are many. I'll tell you, the funniest one was the one I heard from discussing with some colleagues the other day. Somebody mentioned it's a project at the University of Melbourne. Actually, it's it's an app or an application which can tell you the emotion of your pet. So it's a machine learning model which has been trained on a lot of photographs of, I guess, happy and sad and angry pets, and it has a really, really high accuracy rate of predicting evaluating the emotion of your pet. So I love that one, actually. There's, one of the things about AI and is the breadth of it. I think that's it's the breadth of it and the scope. Surprising. Some of the core algorithms might surprise you, so that there are search algorithms. That's an important part, search techniques to search for a solution to a problem that are inspired by nature. So one of those it's called ant colony optimization. And what it does it uses something similar to what parties of ants do when they're traveling along different routes. I think from the outside, things like that sound really surprising, that we're looking at things in nature and we're using those as the basis to design and develop AI algorithms. Well, neural networks is a core point. It's inspired by, in part, connections and neural activity in the brain. So let me see what else has come up here on the questions. Yes, this is an interesting one. So the Harvard Business Review dubbed the data scientist as the sexiest job of the 21st century in 2012. Is there an intersection between data science and AI? And why is AI sexier? It's another very good question. It is true that there's an intersection between data science and AI. Data science is focusing on managing and analysing, making sense out of large, huge volumes of data, of which we have many increasingly nowadays. AI itself is much broader. In its broadest sense, it's about building systems, developing algorithms, which can perform tasks which we associate with human intelligence. And it's much broader in its scope and its reach. So things that everybody's familiar with, because there's a lot in the press, is machine learning. Learning in whatever way is thought of as a human feature of human intelligence. There's learning. There's the aspects that we require for control of robots, which are to do with vision, perception, awareness. There's my research area in particular, which is planning, automated planning. It's deliberation, reasoning, putting together complex sequences of actions to achieve some goals. It's a thing we're very, very good at. It's very, very difficult for machines. Language, recognition, understanding, generation, translation. These are all core areas of AI, and it's that underpinning science and technology which are being deployed in the systems that we see all around us. The potential of AI is infinite, and it's way sexier because there's so much range of possibility in it, I would say, and it's endlessly fascinating. Yeah, okay. Now I can see this case. So I'm just looking through the survey link. Okay. The most rewarding aspect of a job in the AI field. I think it's the diversity. I think it's the breadth of it. I mean, I love, my first love in AI is the nitty-gritty technical core computer science, if you like. But what's interesting is that you can't carry on in isolation. It's the application of that in systems. So, for example, my area of planning, deliberation, reasoning, and there's technical aspects to be solved there. But what I can do is I apply that in systems. So in an area of interactive storytelling and narrative, where we use this technology to generate stories, and then we can tell them to people using 3D graphics, similar that you would in a game, so then they can be used, and as we have done, in myriad applications. So health education, to put across complicated health messages, which are, it lowers the bar for people with literacy issues, for example. So it's just endlessly rewarding because there's so much scope and diversity in it, I'd say. What's it like to be a woman in the AI field? It's a very good question. What's good is like with everything in AI and CS, is there's a lot more women moving into the field. I have never found it to be a bar for myself. Historically, actually, AI is one of those areas I think that has had quite a lot of women in it. What's worth saying is that RMIT computer science in general has a lot of initiatives to increase the gender balance in CS. So what you'll find is that there's a lot of the recent recruits are female, and that's a great thing, right? Especially with the undergraduates, because they're coming in and they're seeing a lot of women in AI and in CS. Great. Okay, I think I've probably talked a bit too much. I can see it's nearly 1:15, which is our time to finish. Let me see what. Anyway, so I've gone through all the questions. That's great. It's been thanks to everybody who's attended the session today and asked questions. If you have any questions as a follow-on, or you have individual questions pertaining to your situation, then feel free to contact the team at RMIT. You've got my name. Possibly you can get access to my email, but if you can find that, then just reach out and email me. I'm happy to meet to discuss. Do remember, there has been a link posted to the survey, so do remember to, or if you can, spare 3 minutes or so to complete that. Your feedback would be really helpful, and to ensure that moving forward we can continue to, help people get the best out of these virtual information sessions. I hope you found it useful and insightful, and look forward to well, meeting you all on the Master of AI. Yeah, stay safe, everybody. Take care. Bye for now.